he had made, and all that he had done. "Yes, horrible," said Monville coolly, "but what would you have? They have taken from your Highness all they could get; you can be of no further use to them. Therefore they will do to you what I do with this lemon." He was squeezing a lemon on a sole. "Now I have all the juice," and he threw the lemon into the fireplace. But yet, even then, Robespierre was not satisfied. He harbored malice against this fallen man. On the way to the scaffold he ordered the cart in which the Duke sat to stop before the Palais Royal, which had been confiscated, in order that the Duke might contemplate his last sacrifice for his country. The Duke showed neither fear nor emotion. All the world knows the story of the Terror. The long processions of carts carrying victims to the guillotine, these increasing in number until after the law of Prairial they averaged 60 or 70 a day in Paris alone, while in the provinces there was no end. At Nantes Carrier could not work fast enough by a cord, so he sank boatloads of prisoners in the Loire. The hecatombs sacrificed at Lyons and the red masses of Orange have all been described. The population of Toulon sank from 29,000 to 7,000. All those, in fine, were seized and slain who were suspected of having a mind tinged with caste, or of being traitors to the Republic. And it was the Centre, or the majority of the Convention, who did this by tacitly permitting it to be done. That is to say, France permitted it because the onslaught of the decaying class made atrocities such as these appear to be a condition of self-preservation. I doubt if in human history there be such another and so awful an illustration of the possible effects of conservative errors of judgment. For France never loved the Terror or the loathsome instruments, such as Fouquier Tinville or Carrier, or Billaud Varennes, or Collot d'Herbois, or Henriot, or Robespierre, or Couthon, who conducted it. On this point there can, I think, be neither doubt nor question. I have tried to show how the Terror began. It is easy to show how and why it ended. As it began automatically by the stress of foreign and domestic war, so it ended automatically when that stress was relieved. And the most curious aspect of the phenomena is that it did not end through the application of force, but by common consent, and when it had ended, those who had been used for the bloody work could not be endured, and they too were put to death. The procession of dates is convincing. When, on July 27, 1793, Robespierre entered the Committee of Public Safety, the fortunes of the Republic were near their nadir, but almost immediately after Carnot took the War Department on August 14, they began to mend. On October 8, 1793, Lyons surrendered. On December 19, 1793, the English evacuated Toulon, and on December 23 the insurrection in La Vendée received its death blow at Zevenay. There had also been success on the frontiers. Carnot put Hoche in command in the Vosges. On December 23, 1793, Hoche defeated Wurmser at Freshweiler, when the Austrians, abandoning the lines of Wissembourg, fell back across the Rhine. Thus by the end of 1793, save for the great border fortresses by Valenciennes and Condé to the north, which commanded the road from Brussels to Paris, the soil of France had been cleared of the enemy, and something resembling domestic tranquillity had been restored at home. Simultaneously as the pressure lessened, rifts began to appear in the knot of men who held the dictatorship in the Republic. Robespierre, Couthon, and Saint Just coalesced and gained control of the police, while Billaud Varennes, Collot d'Herbois, and secretly and as far as he dared, Barreret formed an opposition. Not that the latter were more moderate or merciful than Robespierre, but because in the nature of things there could be but one dictator, and it became a question of the survival of the fittest. Carnot took little or no part in active politics. He devoted himself to the war, but he disapproved of the Terror and came to a breach with Saint Just. Robespierre's power culminated on June 10, 1794, with the passage of the law of 22 Prairial, which put the life of every Frenchman in his hand, and after which, save for some dozen or two of his most intimate and devoted adherents, like Saint Just, Couthon, Lebas, Fouquier, Fleurot, the mayor of Paris, and Henriot, the commander of the National Guard, no one felt his head safe on his shoulders. It needed but security on the northern frontier to cause the social centre of gravity to shift and Robespierre to fall, and security came with the campaign of Fleurus. Jourdan and Pichegru were in command on the Belgian border, and on June 26, 1794, just 16 days after the passage of the law of Prairial, Jourdan won the battle of Fleurus. This battle, though not decisive in itself, led to decisive results. It uncovered Valenciennes and Condé, which were invested, closing the entrance to France. On July 11 Jourdan entered Brussels. On July 16 he won a crushing victory before Louvain, and the same day Namur opened its gates. On July 23 Pichegru, driving the English before him, seized Antwerp. No Frenchman could longer doubt that France was delivered, and with that certainty the Terror ended without a blow. Eventually the end must have come, but it came instantly, and, according to the old legend, it came through a man's love for a woman. John Lambert Tallien, the son of the butler of the Marquis of Bercy, was born in 1769 and received an education through the generosity of the Marquis, who noticed his intelligence. He became a journeyman printer, and one day, in the studio of Madame Lebrun, dressed in his workman's blouse, he met Thérésia Cabarrus, Marquise de Fontenay, the most seductive woman of her time, and fell in love with her on the instant. Nothing apparently could have been more hopeless or absurd. But the revolution came. Tallien became prominent, was elected to the Convention, grew to be influential, and in September 1793 was sent to Bordeaux as representative of the Chamber, or as proconsul, as they called it. There he, the all-powerful despot, found Thérésia trying to escape to Spain, in prison, humble, poor, shuddering in the shadow of the guillotine. He saved her. He carried her through Bordeaux in triumph in a car by his side. He took her with him to Paris, and there Robespierre threw her into prison and accused Tallien of corruption. On June 12 Robespierre denounced him to the Convention, and on June 14, 1794, the Jacobins struck his name from the list of the club. When Fleurus was fought, Thérésia lay in La Force, daily expecting death, while Tallien had become the soul of the reactionary party. On the 8th Thermidor, July 26, 1794, Tallien received a dagger wrapped in a note signed by Thérésia. "Tomorrow they kill me. Are you then only a coward?" On the morrow the great day had come. Saint Just rose in the Convention to read a report to denounce Billaud, Collot, and Camotte. Tallien would not let him be heard. Billaud followed him. Collot was in the chair. Robespierre mounted the tribune and tried to speak. It was not without reason that Thérésia afterwards said this little hand had somewhat to do with overthrowing the guillotine, for Tallien sprang on him, dagger in hand, and grasping him by the throat, cast him from the tribune, exclaiming, "I have armed myself with a dagger to pierce his heart if the Convention dare not order his accusation." Then rose a great shout from the centre, "Down with the tyrant! Arrest him! Accuse him!" From the centre, which until that day had always silently supported the Robespierrian dictatorship, Robespierre for the last time tried to speak, but his voice failed him. "It's Danton's blood that chokes him! Arrest him! Arrest him!" they shouted from the right. Robespierre dropped exhausted on a bench. Then they seized him and his brother and Couthon and Saint Just, and ordered that the police should take them to prison. But it was one thing for the Convention to seize Robespierre singly, and within its own hall. It was quite another for it to hold him and send him to the guillotine. The whole physical force of Paris was nominally with Robespierre. The mayor, Fleuriot, closed the barriers, sounded the tocsin, and forbade any jailer to receive the prisoners, while Henriot, who had already been drinking, mounted a horse and galloped forth to rouse the city. Fleuriot caused Robespierre, Couthon, and Les Bas to be brought to the city hall. A provisional government was completed. It only remained to disperse the Assembly. Henriot undertook a duty which looked easy. He seems to have collected about 20 guns, which he brought to the Tuileries and trained on the hall of the Convention. The deputies thought all was over.